You know that feeling, right? The alarm clock just rips you out of sleep, then you're stuck in traffic, inching along. All just to get to an office where, honestly, doing the actual work feels like a battle against constant interruptions.
Yeah, the chatter, the meetings,
Yeah.
it's endless sometimes.
Exactly. But what if there was just a better way, a way that gave you more control, let you really focus, and actually, give you more life outside of work?
Well, it's interesting you frame it like that because it's not just a pipe dream. The thinking behind this better way, it's been tested, refined, and Jason Fried lays it all out brilliantly in his book, Remote.
Right, remote.
And we're not just talking about, like, checking emails from the couch sometimes.
Yeah.
This is a fundamental shift in how we think about getting work done effectively, without needing that central office hub.
And it was actually you, the listener, who pointed us towards this book. Maybe you're already working remotely or trying to lead a team that way.
Or maybe running a business and wondering, could this actually work for us?
Whatever the reason, you're clearly looking for something. Maybe validation, maybe some new ideas, or just practical, down-to-earth strategies.
That's exactly what we're aiming for in this deep dive. We want to pull out the really actionable stuff from remote, the insights you can use in your own life right now.
Yeah, not just theory. We're talking real benefits and how to handle the real challenges that pop up.
Think of it as your guide to making remote work really work.
And then this isn't just theory spun out of thin air. Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen, they built 37 Signals, the Basecamp folks.
As a remote-first company, years ago, they lived this.
Exactly. This comes straight from their own experience. And big names noticed early on, like David Allen, Richard Florida, even Kevin Kelly from Wired. They saw the value.
And you have to remember the timing, too. It came out right around when Yahoo made that huge splash by banning remote work back in 2013.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Caused quite a stir.
It really did. And remote landed right in the middle of that debate, offering this really clear, compelling argument for it. It showed just how relevant these ideas were, and still are, obviously.
Okay, so let's get into the meat of it. Why does remote argue so strongly for this way of working? The first big one, and it's hard to argue with, is just getting more done, better focus.
The book puts it so well. When you work on your own, far away from the buzzing swarm at headquarters, you can settle into your own productive zone. You can actually get work done, the same work that you couldn't get done at work.
It's almost funny because it's so true, isn't it?
It is. And Fried's point is crucial. The office, the place supposedly designed for work, often becomes the biggest obstacle to deep work.
Right. The interruptions are different.
Exactly. Office interruptions are usually active. Someone drops by your desk, a sudden meeting appears. At home, the distractions, maybe the TV or laundry, they're more passive.
Yeah.
You control them more.
You can put on headphones, shut a door.
Precisely. Think about it. When you really need to buckle down and focus, where do you naturally want to be? Probably not the open plan office at 2 p.m.
Good point. Okay, and then there's the thing probably everyone listening hates, the commute. Remote calls it stopping commuting your life away. They don't sugarcoat it.
No, they really don't.
Yeah.
And it's not just the annoyance factor. They touch on research linking long commutes to, well, a whole bunch of nasty stuff.
Like what?
Things like obesity, trouble sleeping, more stress, higher risk of heart problems, depression, even divorce, apparently.
Wow, okay, that's serious.
It is. But even just looking at the time cost, if you commute, say, an hour and a half a day, that adds up. Like 300, maybe 400 hours a year.
That's a lot of hours.
It's huge. They make this great comparison. They built the first version of Basecamp in roughly that amount of developer time.
Seriously?
Yeah. So imagine what you could do with an extra 400 hours. It's not just bad for your health, it's a massive productivity killer.
Definitely puts it in perspective. So, if remote work is so great, why didn't it take over sooner? The book's answer is pretty blunt, right? It's the technology, stupid.
Huh. Yes. But it's not just that the tech exists. It's how quickly the right tech became good, cheap, and widespread.
Right. Trying to do this 20 years ago would have been rough.
Totally. Just phones, maybe a fax, forget it. But now, reliable high-speed internet, easy screen sharing like Zoom or WebEx, project tools like Basecamp or Trello, instant messaging, it's all there.
And pretty user-friendly, mostly.
Yeah, the tools are basically solved. The book argues the real hurdle now is mindset, letting go of that old work happens here between these hours idea. The tech enables it. The thinking unlocks it.
And that tech enables another big shift the book talks about, moving away from everyone needing to work 9 to 5 at the exact same time, asynchronous collaboration.
This is so key for how effective remote teams function. It means you don't all have to be logged in simultaneously to move things forward.
Which gives you flexibility.
Huge flexibility. People can work when they're sharpest. It handles time zones. They give this cool example of a film company, IT Collective, where editors did their best creative work late at night.
As long as they synced up for feedback later.
Exactly. You still need some overlap, usually, but you're not chained to the clock in the same way. Think about how you could structure your day differently if it wasn't just about being present during specific hours.
Okay, but let's be real. Whenever remote work comes up, people have concerns, doubts, and remote tackles them directly. First up, the idea that magic only happens when we're all in a room.
Ah, yes, the brainstorming myth. That you need physical presence for real innovation.
Right.
And look, the book admits those face-to-face moments can be good, valuable even, but they argue it should be a rare treat, not the default.
Like, save it for when it really counts.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
honestly, how many unproductive in-person meetings have we all sat through? Good remote communication, using the right tools, and often be way more efficient and focused. Treat the in-person time as special.
Makes sense. Okay, what about the big one? Trust. That classic manager question. If I can't see them, how do I know they're working?
Remote just flips that right over. Does seeing someone at their desk actually mean they're productive?
Good point. Probably not always.
Right. They mentioned this study about JCPenney workers watching tons of YouTube at their office desks. Presence doesn't equal output.
So the focus should be elsewhere.
Yes. On hiring people you trust in the first place and then managing based on results. There's a great quote from Chris Hoffman at IT Collective. If we're struggling with trust issues, it means we made a poor hiring decision. If performance is the problem, location doesn't matter. Address the performance.
Right, fair enough. But what about distractions at home? Surely that's a real issue. The TV, the fridge, the dog.
The book doesn't pretend those don't exist, but it makes two key points. One, truly engaging work is the best defense against distraction, wherever you are.
If you're interested, you focus.
Pretty much. And two, you have more control over home distractions. Set up a dedicated space, even a corner. Use those headphones. And hey, if home is genuinely chaotic, remote doesn't mean only home.
Right, coffee shops, libraries, co-working.
Exactly. The fear about everyone slacking off is often more about manager anxiety than reality, the book suggests.
What about security? Keeping company data safe when it's spread out everywhere.
That's a totally valid concern. Remote uses the 37 Signals security checklist as a practical example. It's not super complex, it's just sensible stuff any company should do anyway.
Like what?
Things like encrypting hard drives, requiring strong passwords, using secure connections, HTTPS, and being able to remotely wise a lost phone or laptop. Basic cyber hygiene, really.
Stuff people already do for online banking from home, basically.
Exactly. With decent protocols and training, remote can be just as secure, sometimes even more so if you think about things like shoulder surfing in an office.
Okay. Then there's the argument, well, the really big companies don't do remote work, like it's not serious or scalable.
Yeah, the follow the dinosaurs argument. Remote pushes back on that. Firstly, are giant legacy companies always the best place to look for innovation in how we work? Maybe not.
Good point.
But more importantly, it's often just not true anymore. They list major companies successfully using remote work. IBM, SC Johnson, Accenture, eBay.
IBM?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
big time. They saved billions with their remote strategy, mostly by reducing office space. So the idea that it's only for small startups just doesn't hold water.
Okay. What about fairness? If some people work remotely, won't the ones stuck in the office get jealous or resentful?
The book tackles that by asking, if remote work is beneficial, shouldn't the goal be to offer it to everyone possible based on the role?
Instead of making everyone come to the office just because some roles require it?
Precisely. Focus on the output needed for the role, not just where the chair is located. Now, sure, some jobs have to be on site, that's reality. But the goal should be optimizing for productivity and satisfaction where you can. Clear communication about why helps too.
And company culture, how do you build that when people aren't physically together, bumping into each other at the water cooler?
Remote has a great take on this. Culture isn't the ping pong table or the holiday party.
Okay. What is it then?
It's the spoken and unspoken values and actions of the organization. how decisions get made, how people communicate, how work gets recognized.
Ah, the stuff that actually matters day to day.
Exactly. And remote work, they argue, actually forces you to be more intentional about building that culture. You can't rely on accidental osmosis. You have to consciously shape it through your actions and communication.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Okay, last big concern, the I need an answer now, panic.
Mhm.
How do remote teams handle urgent requests without constant shoulder tapping?
This is where a tiered communication system comes in, which the book recommends. It's really practical.
How does that work?
Basically, email for things that aren't time sensitive. Instant messaging, like Slack or Teams, for quicker questions, but where an immediate reply isn't essential. And the phone, that's for genuine emergencies or crises.
So it forces people to think about how urgent something really is.
Exactly. It cuts down massively on those just checking in interruptions that kill focus.
Yeah.
Plus, written communication like email or chat leaves a record. Breaking that ASAP habit takes effort, but the payoff in productivity is huge.
Okay, so we've hit the advantages and tackled the big worries. Let's talk practical strategies. How do you make remote collaboration actually work well day to day? The book mentions overlapping work hours.
Yeah, this is important. While asynchronous work is great, having zero-time overlap can make things really difficult. You need some window for real-time chats, quick meetings, just connecting.
So how much overlap?
Remote suggests aiming for about 4 hours as a baseline for many teams. Enough for that essential sync-up. Of course, there are exceptions, especially with global teams, but pure asynchronous can feel disjointed. Think about your team. What's that critical window for collaboration?
Right. And visually connecting is key too, right? Seeing is believing, as they say.
Totally. Since you can't just swivel your chair, screen sharing and video calls become indispensable.
Explaining something complex or just seeing facial expressions.
Exactly. It builds clarity, understanding, connection. Think how much better even a quick video call can be than a long, confusing email chain. Turning cameras on, sharing screens, it bridges that distance.
And information needs to flow freely, all out in the open.
Yes. Transparency is vital. Everyone needs easy access to project details, files,
Yeah.
shared drives like Dropbox or Google Drive team calendars, group chat logs.
No information silos.
Right. Nothing's more frustrating than hitting a wall because you can't find the info you need. Make it open, make it accessible. For you listening, think. How easy is it for your team to find what they need? Where could it be more open?
Okay, and keeping track of what everyone's doing, that sense of forward motion. How do you do that remotely without feeling like you're micromanaging?
The book suggests something super simple but effective.
Okay.
A weekly, what have you been working on? Update.
Just a quick summary.
Yeah, each person shares a few bullet points. Here's what I did last week. Here are my main goals for this week. It's not about tracking hours. It's about shared visibility. Everyone sees progress, spots potential blocks, feels like things are moving.
And adds a bit of gentle accountability.
Exactly. Low effort, high impact. If you lead a team, it's a great little ritual to implement.
And ultimately, this all leads to focusing on what really counts. The work is what matters.
That's a natural consequence, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you can't easily see someone working for 8 hours, what can you see?
The results, the actual work they produce.
Exactly. The focus shifts from time and seat to quality and quantity of output. It forces clearer goals. It makes evaluations way more straightforward. As a manager, it's show me the results, not did you clock in on time.
Which benefits high performers.
Absolutely. And makes it clear where support might be needed. For you as an employee, it means your contribution speaks for itself. Deliver good work.
Now, the book is realistic. Remote work isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It has its own challenges, like cabin fever, feeling isolated.
Definitely a risk for some. Staring at the same 4 walls can get old. The book suggests being proactive about it.
Like how?
Maybe use a co-working space sometimes. Work from a coffee shop or library for a change of pace. Make a point of having social plans outside of work hours. Remote doesn't mean house arrest. If you feel isolated, shake up your routine.
And work-life balance. That can get tricky when your office is always right there. The advice is check in, check out.
It sounds weird, but driven remote workers often risk overworking because the boundaries blur. Your laptop's always there.
Tempting to just check one more email.
Exactly. So, having clear start and end times and really sticking to them is crucial. Actually shutting down the work computer. Managers need to model and encourage this too, respecting people's off hours. For you, protect those boundaries fiercely.
Ergonomics too. Easy to slouch on the sofa with a laptop, but probably not great long term.
Oh, definitely not. Setting up a proper workspace matters. A decent chair, monitor at the right height, maybe an external keyboard and mouse. It prevents aches and pains, maybe even serious issues down the line. Take a look at your setup. Is it actually good for your body?
Good reminder. And finally, they have this phrase, mind the gut. What's that about? Health.
Yeah, overall well-being. When you cut out the commute, the walk to meetings, even just going out for lunch, you can become much more sedentary without realizing it.
Right? Less built-in movement.
So you need to be conscious about adding movement back in. Take walk breaks, use a standing desk if you like them, maybe use that saved commute time for actual exercise or cooking healthier meals instead of grabbing takeout. Look after yourself.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. What about hiring and managing remote teams? That's different too. The book highlights a huge advantage. It's a big world for finding talent.
This is a game changer. You're not restricted to hiring people within a 30-mile radius of an office anymore.
You can find the best person, period, wherever they live.
Exactly. Suddenly, your talent pool is global. That can bring incredible diversity, skills, perspectives you'd never find locally. If you're hiring, it just opens up enormous possibilities.
And the flip side, remote work helps with retention when life moves on, right? Keeping people even if they need to move.
Absolutely. People relocate for all sorts of reasons, family, partners, cost of living, just wanting a change.
Hmm.
If you offer remote work, you don't automatically lose that valuable, experienced employee.
They can take the job with them.
Right. The book mentions companies like Jellyvision doing this successfully. It saves huge amounts of institutional knowledge and avoids costly rehiring. If you're an employee thinking of moving, remote options are a massive plus.
But how do you keep the team vibe positive? Keep the good times going when you're not physically together.
It takes more intention. You can't rely on accidental hallway chats. You need to actively foster connection. Hiring positive, communicative people helps a lot.
And maybe virtual hangouts.
Yeah, virtual coffees, online games, celebrating wins together in chat, and just generally creating a supportive atmosphere where people feel connected, even if they're miles apart. Team morale is still contagious remotely.
Okay, so the actual hiring process, remote advises seeking a human, not just a resume.
Yeah, look beyond the bullet points. Try to get a feel for their personality, how they communicate, if they seem self-motivated. They also warn against parlor tricks. In interviews, focus on real skills.
Which leads to their idea of using a test project.
This is a big one for them. Instead of just talking about skills, give candidates a small, paid project that mirrors the actual work.
See how they actually do the job.
Exactly. It shows practical ability, work ethic, communication style.
Hmm.
Way better than just an interview. 37 Signals even hires support folks by having them answer real customer questions. If you're applying, see a test project as your chance to shine.
What about paying remote workers? The book argues for the cost of thriving.
Their stance is clear. Pay fair market rates for the role, regardless of the employee's location. Don't try to lowball someone just because they live somewhere with a lower cost of living,
Why not? It could save money.
because you want the best talent. And top talent expects fair compensation for their skills. Paying competitively shows you value them. Plus, think of the cost savings the employee enjoys in a lower-cost area. That's their benefit, not the company's discount.
Right. Okay, and managing. The big shift is stop managing the chairs.
Love that phrase.
Yeah.
It means stop focusing on butts and seats or hours logged. That's old-school factory thinking.
And focus on.
The work,
Yeah.
the output, quality, results. It requires trust, clear expectations, and empowering people. Your job as a manager becomes leading, supporting, and evaluating the actual work, not monitoring presence.
But they do still see value in getting together sometimes, right? The meetups and the sprints.
Oh, absolutely. Occasional in-person gatherings are incredibly valuable. Great for relationship building, reinforcing culture, maybe tackling a big project intensively for a few days.
So it's not never see each other.
No, not usually. Companies like 37 Signals,
Yeah.
Free Agent, they all do periodic meetups. They don't have to be super frequent or fancy. But that face-to-face time builds bonds that sustain the remote work.
Mm.
If you run a remote team, budget for these.
Interesting. They also mention lessons from open source. How does that relate?
Well, think about successful open source projects. They're often built by huge numbers of people scattered all over the world, many of whom never meet.
Right, like Linux or Wikipedia.
Exactly. How do they make it work? Through principles like clear documentation, asynchronous communication, transparency, shared goals. The same principles, remote advocates for company teams. Open source proves distributed collaboration can work on a massive scale.
And finally, for managers, regular one-on-ones.
Crucial. Frequent informal check-ins. Not just about project status, but asking, how are things going? What challenges are you facing? How can I help? It maintains that personal connection and helps catch issues early. Aim for maybe every couple of weeks. Prioritize them.
Okay, so lots for managers and companies. But remote also has direct advice for us, the listeners, trying to make remote work work for us. Starting with creating boundaries.
Super important when work and home are the same place. Little rituals help, like
Mhm.
actually getting dressed for work, even if it's casual. Having set work blocks and break times. A clear end to the workday.
Signals to your brain, now is work time, now is not.
Exactly. Create that separation. Figure out what rituals work for you to switch modes.
And separating tech helps too. Compute different.
Yeah, if possible. Having a separate device just for work, laptop, tablet, whatever, it makes it physically harder to just quickly check work email on your personal phone at 10 p.m. Less temptation, cleaner break.
Finding your best environment is key too. Maybe it's not the quiet home office, working alone in a crowd.
Right. Some people thrive on the buzz of a coffee shop. Others need library silence. Some love co-working spaces. Experiment. Find where you feel most focused and energized. Don't assume home is automatically best.
What about staying motivated?
Yeah.
Especially when no one's looking over your shoulder.
The book argues real motivation comes from interesting work and a good environment, not from fear or rewards. If your motivation dips, ask yourself, is the work engaging? Is the team supportive?
And if you're a manager, have that conversation if you see someone flagging.
Absolutely. Understand the root cause. Maybe they need a new challenge. Or maybe, for long-term folks, something like a sabbatical could recharge them. Find work that pulls you in.
Remote work also offers the chance to travel light, right? Work from anywhere.
Potentially, yes. As long as you manage the time zones and communication needs, the flexibility can be amazing. Laptop, internet, your office can be almost anywhere. If that appeals to you, remote works makes it possible.
And even small changes matter. Changing scenery.
Definitely. Feeling stuck? Just work from a different room today. Or try that coffee shop down the street. Even rearranging your desk can sometimes shift your perspective and spark creativity. Don't underestimate small tweaks.
So wrapping up, the book looks at the future of remote work. What's the takeaway there?
The core message is, this isn't just a fad. It's a fundamental shift. They use the diffusion of innovations idea and Gandhi quote.
First they ignore you, then they laugh at you.
Then they fight you, then you win. The suggestion is we're maybe in the fighting stage in some places, but the momentum is towards much wider acceptance and adoption of remote work. It's becoming part of the future of how we work.
Okay, so bringing this deep dive on remote home, we've seen how it argues for rethinking work itself, boosting productivity, focus, well-being, by ditching the commute and office chaos.
Right, and how tech enables this, especially asynchronous collaboration. We've also tackled those common worries head-on. Trust, distractions, security, culture, showing there are practical answers.
We looked at concrete strategies for making it work, overlapping hours, visual tools, transparency, tracking progress, focusing on results, and acknowledging the challenges: isolation, balance, ergonomics, health, and how to manage them.
And for companies, the huge upsides. Global talent, better retention, and the need for managers to manage the work, not the chairs. Plus, smart hiring, fair pay, and the value of occasional meetups.
And crucially, for you listening, actionable tips on boundaries, separating tech, finding your best workspace, staying motivated, embracing flexibility, and even just changing the scenery.
Yeah, remote really gives you a solid foundation, a shortcut to understanding how to make this work, whether you're an employee, manager, or owner. It's packed with stuff you can use today.
So here's something to think about as we finish. As these lines keep blurring between the traditional office and remote work, how are you going to use these ideas from remote to consciously shape your own work life?
Or maybe just start smaller. What's one practical tip we talked about that really resonated? What's one small step you could take, maybe even tomorrow, to apply it and see if it boosts your own productivity or well-being?
Thanks again for suggesting remote and joining us for this deep dive. Keep exploring these ideas and feel free to share your own experiences.